This is Tina Douglas, and you're listening to the Liam Photography Podcast with your host, my husband, Liam Douglas. Enjoy!
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Liam here with episode 474 of the Liam Photography Podcast for the week of October 2nd, 2025. So first off, before I get into this week's episode, I want to thank once again Susie Pratt from Gemini Connect and Dr. Larry from Platypod for being my guests for the last two episodes. A couple of really great interviews, and if you didn't hear them, you should go back and listen to episodes 472 and 473. Now also make sure you get your entries in for my 50,000 plus subscriber giveaway. Just visit my YouTube channel and you can find the link to the channel in today's show notes. Make sure you subscribe and then make a screenshot showing you are subscribed and email it to liamphotoatl@gmail.com to get your entry in for a chance to win a brand new Platypod Delta flat tripod. Now, on to our latest news stories for this week. Sony has announced its first G-Master lens dedicated to macro photography, the Sony FE 100mm f2.8 Macro G-Master OSS. It arrives a decade after Sony's 90mm f2.8 G Macro OSS, a lens celebrated for its excellent sharpness and close focusing capabilities. Now, Sony's new lens promises to be superior in every meaningful way and aims to be the best macro lens for full-frame mirrorless cameras, period. The Sony 100mm f2.8 Macro GM is built for demanding professional photo and video applications and incorporates many of the optical technologies Sony has developed in the years since the original 90mm f2.8 G Macro was launched. Now, chief among these advancements is the move to a G-Master design, which means the new macro lens features Sony's best optics, including XA elements. The lens sports a pair of XA elements, ensuring that the bokeh is exceptionally clean and devoid of any onion ring artifacts. Now, bokeh is a significant focus for all G-Master lenses, as is exceptional sharpness and resolution across the focal plane. Although the new macro lens is designed for close-up photography, its mid-telephoto focal length should also work well for other types of photography, including portraits and weddings. Now, in these cases, the lens must not sacrifice overall image quality for the sake of close-up performance. Sony promises that the G-Master's trademark sharpness for in-focus areas and softness for the out-of-focus ones will make the new 100mm 2.8 Macro GM an excellent choice for non-macro photography. Now, the lens features an 11-bladed circular aperture diaphragm. In total, the lens features 17 elements arranged across 13 groups, including a pair of ED elements to suppress aberrations and fringing, in addition to two aforementioned XA lens elements. The lens also features Sony's Nano AR Coating Mark II, which minimizes flare and ghosting in backlit scenes. Another aspect of the lens that adds to its versatility is its autofocus system. Back when Sony launched the 90mm macro, it was still a ways off from developing its linear XD autofocus motors. Now, there are 4 of these motors, which Sony describes as the best in the industry in the new 100mm 2.8 macro. This means the lens is fully compatible with 120 frames per second photography on the Sony A9 III and 4K P120 recording on select Sony cameras. Now, Sony promises quick and quiet and, importantly, precise autofocus. The company claims that its new macro lens focuses 1.9 times faster than the 90mm lens. However, real-world testing is necessary to gain a deeper understanding of the overall advancements in autofocus performance, including stability and smoothness, particularly at close focusing distances. Now, speaking of close focusing distances, while the 90mm macro delivers 1-to-1 magnification, which is typical for full-frame macro lenses, the new 100mm 2.8 takes it up a notch. Out of the box, without teleconverters or extension tubes, the new macro lens achieves a native magnification of 1.4 to 1. This corresponds to a minimum working distance of 3.5 inches or 89.9 millimeters at 1.4 times magnification. Unlike the Canon RF 100mm 2.8 LIS macro lens, which also has a 1.4 to 1 maximum magnification ratio, the Sony FE can accept teleconverters. This has two obvious immediate benefits. Attaching either the Sony 1.4 times or 2 times teleconverters to the lens enables even greater magnification ratios of 2 to 1 and 2.8 to 1. Furthermore, the teleconverters also allow for longer working distances at 1 to 1 and 1.4 to 1 magnification ratios, which can be particularly helpful when working with certain lighting setups for photographing sensitive subjects such as insects. Now, with the 1.4 times teleconverter attached, the macro lens becomes a 140mm f4 prime capable of 2 to 1 magnification. Meanwhile, with the 2 times teleconverter, Sony shooters get a 200mm f5.6 macro lens with a 2.8 to 1 magnification, which is dramatic. In either case, the lens retains full autofocus performance, and Peta Pixel will be testing the new lens with teleconverters to determine what level of sharpness drop-off is experienced in exchange for the expanded magnification. As mentioned earlier, Sony has brought out all the stops in terms of adding its most recent optical technologies to its new G Master macro lens. However, it has also done something altogether new with its 60th full-frame lens and 23rd G Master lens like its predecessor. The 100mm 2.8 GM OSS features optical steady shot, Sony's terminology for optical image stabilization. However, while OSS typically works based on focal length, Sony has tweaked the system to perform better when doing macro photography. Instead of being tuned just for a 100mm focal length, the lens takes the focus distance into account to deliver improved stability for macro photography. Sony promises that the OSS, which coordinates with in-body image stabilization in Sony's alpha cameras, significantly reduces macro-specific shake, making it even easier to nail precise focus and framing in challenging macro scenarios. In terms of its physical design, the Sony 100mm f2.8 macro GM OSS is nearly the same size as its 90mm sibling. The new lens measures 147.9 millimeters or 5.8 inches in length and weighs 646 grams or 22.7 ounces. It has a maximum diameter of 81.4 millimeters or 3.2 inches and accepts 67 millimeter front filters. The 90 millimeter lens is a bit shorter at 130.5 millimeters or 5.1 inches and lighter at 602 grams or 21.2 ounces, but looks quite similar. It is worth noting that the Sony FE 100mm macro lens is an internally focusing lens. This means that unlike some macro lenses on the market, the lens's length remains constant as the focus distance changes. Some macro lenses, especially older ones, get longer as photographers focus closer. The new macro lens retains the focus clutch design, allowing photographers to slide the focus ring forward and backward to quickly switch between autofocus and manual focus modes. It also still features an indexed focus ring, which enables the lens to be labeled with autofocus distances and depth of field markings in both imperial and metric units. The indexed focus ring may also prove useful for videographers as it could make precise focus pulls much easier to repeat. Now, as a G Master lens, the new 100mm macro incorporates a dust and weather moisture resistant design built to withstand the rigors of professional work out in the real world. The seams are sealed and all buttons and switches have silicone rubber gaskets. The front element also features a fluorine coating and the mount is also sealed. The macro lens also has the accoutrements photographers expect in a G Master lens, including focus hold buttons, focus mode switches, a focus range limiter, an aperture ring click switch, full-time DMF, and on-barrel OSS controls. Now, the Sony 100mm f2.8 macro G Master OSS lens will be available to pre-order starting today, An unusual move for Sony, and will retail for $1,499 in the United States and $1,799 in Canada. And the lens will begin shipping on November 13th. Now, this is definitely an exciting lens for those of you that love to do macro photography or like a mid-telephoto lens. I did watch the review on this lens by Kai W., who used to be the host and presenter for Digital Rev TV. He's doing his own thing now with his own channel. And he went through all of the ins and outs of the lens, tested the daylights out of it, and it was an extremely impressive performing lens. It gives great image quality, great contrast, great sharpness throughout the entire lens. Center to corners was extremely impressive. So if you're a Sony shooter, this is probably going to be a lens that you want to pick up. Even if you don't do macro photography, like I said, it can be used as a portrait lens for wedding portraits and stuff like that, and a mid-tele lens. So you've got quite a bit of flexibility with a lens like this. Now, back when I shot Canon, I had the Canon 100mm f2.8, and I loved that lens. And again, because I could not only use it for macro, which I just dabble in from time to time, but I could use it for portraits, and it was a stellar lens for that kind of shooting. So definitely might be a lens that you, as a Sony shooter, might want to look at and seriously consider. The aF-1 is a brand new film camera designed from Analog, a design agency based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Aiming for a release in early 2026, the aF-1 promises to be an accessible, affordable point-and-shoot camera with autofocus and automatic film winding made from scratch. Quote, designed by photographers, the aF-1 combines timeless aesthetics with modern usability, inspired by iconic compacts like the Olympus Meizu series, Contax, and Yashica T, as well as practical favorites like the Minolta Riva and the Pentax SPO series. The camera offers a minimalist look without compromising functionality, Analog explains. Quote, crafted for one-handed use, it features a firm grip and diamond-cut edges on the lens barrel for a refined touch. Every detail from the overall design to the smallest finishing details we have carefully optimized for a great shooting experience. Now, the Analog aF-1 features an autofocusing system driven by a LiDAR sensor. The company says it works by measuring how long it takes light to reflect back to the camera from an object. In this way, it's fast, accurate, and can work through glass. Analog says it is exceptionally accurate and allows photographers to focus within a range of 0.7 meters to infinity. The aF-1 has a two-stage shutter release button with focus lock and an LED indicator for control and guidance. That autofocus drives a fixed 35mm f2.8 with a minimum aperture of f16 lens, which is constructed of 6 elements arranged into 4 groups. Quote, our double Gauss lens with a bright f2.8 aperture draws in light like no other, delivering sharp, clear photos even in low light moments. Whether you're capturing spontaneous memories or carefully composed shots, this lens brings every scene to life, Analog claims. The camera has a variable shutter speed between 1/1000th of a second at its fastest, down to 4 seconds at its slowest. The aF-1 also knows its audience and includes a real GN8 strobe. This electronic flash promises a range of up to 3 meters at ISO 100 with a 0.5 to 3 second recycle time. It also includes a 10-second self-timer. Now, the viewfinder is an Albada reverse Galilean viewfinder, which features built-in guides for subject framing and correction markers for close-up shots. Analog says that it minimizes parallax and maximizes brightness, making it easy to see and frame your subjects. The new film camera also features automatic film loading and unloading. It will automatically advance the film through a roll, and when it is complete, will automatically rewind it back into the canister. The camera also automatically reads DX-coded film to set the ISO automatically. Quote, the aF-1 isn't just about capturing moments. It's about truly seeing them from the first frame to the last. By combining performance with ease of use and the timeless charm of analog technology, The aF-1 helps you rediscover the joy of photography. It encourages you to slow down, observe your surroundings, and focus on the beauty of the present. Let every frame become a memory. Just point and shoot, Analog says. Now, the Analog aF-1 is powered by a single CF123A 3-volt battery, is IPX4 splash-proof, and comes with a 2-year warranty. It is available to pre-order today for $449.99 in euros, or about $566. The company is currently in the final stages of pre-production and intends to enter mass production of the camera in December, with delivery of final units to customers starting in Q1 of 2026. So I know, as I've talked about many times in the past on this show, analog film photography has become mega popular again, and I'm sure the people that are really getting into that would like the opportunity to get a brand spanking new film photography camera. So there you go. At $566, it's not a terrible price. It's compact. It's got advanced electronics, autofocus, everything you could possibly need, and it rewinds and advances the film for you automatically. What more could you ask for? So definitely something that you're going to want to check out if you're big into film photography. Nikon says that based on internal testing, it expects the new Nikon ZR to be able to record continuously for up to 2 hours and 5 minutes in 6K resolution at 60 frames per second in R3D-NE at an ambient temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, despite the fact that it is a very small camera with no active cooling. Now, when Nikon announced the ZR earlier this month, there was one factor that stood out as much as the low asking price and enormous feature set it offered: the lack of a fan. For several years now, competitor cameras have integrated various active cooling technologies to deal with the increased heat that the combination of shooting high resolution and high frame rate often bring. Panasonic, Canon, Sony all have implemented their own methods for cooling, and they work well, but somehow Nikon was able to create a camera that is not only smaller than many of its competitors, but also excluded the need for a fan. Quote, as you can imagine, it was very difficult. Nurieki Majismo, I'm sure I butchered that name, so I apologize. ZR product manager tells Peta Pixel during an interview at the IBC conference in Amsterdam earlier this month regarding the ZR's development and its ability to eschew a fan. Quote, we used magnesium alloy for the front, top, and back covers. These heat-dissipating sheets are placed in such a way as to efficiently dissipate heat from components such as the image sensor and image sensor engine. Through these metal covers, which is how long video recording became possible, he adds. The company says that in internal testing, it was able to continuously record 6K video at 60 frames per second for 2 hours and 5 minutes at the ambient temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, which is about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Nikon did not provide any further specifics into how well it performed its internal testing, but Peta Pixel will verify these findings in a forthcoming full review of the ZR. Still, even if the test was performed in an optimal environment, such as indoors at standard ambient temperatures, that's remarkable for a camera as small as the ZR and with the lack of assistance from a fan. Quote, since this ZR has the compact body, it is very difficult to achieve this if we use the same thermal pathways as the existing model cameras such as the Z8 and Z9. By having new heat dissipation pathways, we were able to achieve this level of performance despite the compact size, Machismo says. Not only can the camera record for such a long time, it has slightly better dynamic range than the Z6 III, which uses the exact same sensor. Quote, we optimized the essential dynamic range of ZR to integrate red, color science, and the base ISO R3D-NE codec records data by allocating the sensor's dynamic range from highlights to shadows and achieves the wider dynamic range. Satoru Takeshi, section manager of 3rd Development Section and 1st Development Departments, also added for this story. So definitely interesting, and I know people like Peta Pixel, Chris and Jordan, I'm sure, will test the daylights out of this and see if it is really capable of recording for that long without overheating. I'm sure Tony Northrup will give it a shot as well. I don't know. I believe Kai already did a video on this camera, but I don't know if he did any of the heat testing for video recording. I don't remember, but I'm sure that quite a few people will definitely jump at the opportunity to put it through its paces and see if Nikon is correct that you can get that much record time in a 77-degree environment without the need for a fan and without the camera overheating. Now, I'm going to take a short break right here, and then I'll be right back. We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Liam Photography Podcast. You can visit the homepage for the show at liamphotographypodcast.com for show notes and links. You can post your questions, comments, or requests for future episodes at the Liam Photography Podcast Facebook group, or you can also email them to the show at liamphotographypodcast.com. You can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at LiamPhotoATL. You can tweet the show, just insert the hashtag LiamPhotoPodcast. And now, back to the show. And we are back and rolling on with this week's episode. Sony Semiconductor has announced a new high-speed, high-resolution image sensor called the IMX927. A backside illuminated and stacked CMOS sensor with a global shutter. While designed for industrial use, it showcases Sony's sensor capabilities and may give some insight into what may trickle down to consumer devices at some point in the future. The sensor is a Type 2.5, which measures 39.7 millimeters on the diagonal, slightly smaller than the diagonal of a Sony full-frame sensor, which is about 43.3 millimeters diagonal, and is square. Now, Sony says that the combination of 105 megapixels and a 100 frames per second sets a new standard and is an industry-leading combination. It is equipped with Sony's Pregus S global shutter technology, which the company says is only possible thanks to the company's proprietary pixel structure. Quote, by optimizing the sensor drive in pixel reading and AD converter, it supports high-speed image data output. Introducing this high-resolution, high-frame rate model into the product lineup will help improving productivity in industrial equipment domain, where recognition, targets, and inspection methods continue to diversify, Sony says. Sony adds that the AD converter is responsible for saving power and therefore enabling faster processing, which is how the sensor is able to achieve its high frame rate. As noted in the above quote, the sensor is designed for industrial use, so it is unlikely that it will appear in consumer devices, at least not in its current form. That said, it is possible that Sony would find a way to take the technology and adapt it for consumer-level cameras sometime in the future. The IMX927 can capture photos in 8, 10, and 12-bit at 112, 102, and 73 frames per second, so that quote of 100 frames per second appears to be an average. Sony is also making the sensor available in both monochrome and Bayer. Images captured with the IMX927 measure 10,272 by 10,272 pixels, so it is a perfect square. Quote, the new sensor is equipped with a Pregus S global shutter technology, the very small 2.74 that's the micrometers or whatever it is that they measure processors in, and all that good stuff. Nanometers, that's it, I'm sorry. Uses Sony's proprietary back-illuminated pixels and stack structure enable the approximately 105 effective megapixel resolution in a compact size with a high level of sensitivity and saturation capacity, Sony says. Quote, in addition to inspections of precise components such as semiconductors and flat panel displays, which require a high degree of accuracy, this feature also enables the capture of larger objects with distortion-free, high-resolution, low-noise images. Thereby, machine vision cameras can achieve higher precision measurements and inspection processes in an extremely wide range of various applications. So definitely some exciting news in the world of Sony sensor technology. Now, again, this chances are it's not going to make its way down to a consumer body anytime soon, or maybe even ever. I remember it was a few years back, Canon had perfected a 100 plus megapixel sensor for some of their commercial camera offerings, industrial cameras, I should say. And there was speculation that might someday trickle down to one of their consumer bodies for, mirrorless cameras, but we haven't seen that happen yet. Now, there has been a lot of scuttlebutt that Canon is at some point going to release the mirrorless replacement for the 5DS and SR. And those two cameras at the time had the largest on the market 50 megapixel sensor in the DSLR days. And so a lot of people have speculated that at some point Canon may modify that sensor to use in like an R5DS camera and give it 100 megapixels. Whether or not it's going to happen, I don't know. It hasn't yet. And they did announce their 100 plus megapixel sensor, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago now. So it's been a little while. I think it was back in 2020, but I could be wrong on that. So don't quote me. But I know it's been quite a few years since they announced that sensor of theirs. Now, it wasn't a global shutter setup, so take that into consideration as well. But it was either, I know they had at least a 100 megapixel version, and I think the article mentioned that they were also close to perfecting a 150 megapixel version of that sensor for their industrial cameras. But again, so far we haven't seen anything trickle down to any of their consumer bodies as of yet. So just keep that in mind. This is exciting news. Don't get me wrong. Sony is always crushing it in sensor technology, but realistically, we probably won't see this sensor in a consumer body anytime soon, if ever. Kodak has quietly launched a new color 35mm film, Kodacolor 100. It joins existing Kodak film, including Kodak Ektar 100, Gold 200, Color Plus 200, Portrait 400, Ultramax 400, and Portrait 800. The new film is already in stock at Unique Photo, which has locations in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. While the film is not yet available to purchase online, which Unique Photo expects to change as soon as tomorrow, October 1, so that would be today as of I'm recording this, the film is already in stock at the company's Fairfield, New Jersey location. Unique Photo is selling one roll of 36 exposures for $9.50, which is a competitive price and only $1 more than Kodak Color Plus 200. The photo retailer states that the daylight balanced ISO 100 film offers fine grain and high detail, along with a, quote, natural color palette with pleasing skin tones and medium contrast, end quote. The retailer notes that the new film is an ideal choice for analog landscape, portrait, and travel photography, particularly in bright daytime conditions, which is logical given its ISO 100 speed. As Analog Cafe reports, some photographers are speculating that Kodacolor 100, quote, may be the same or similar film to Kodak Pro Image 100, which remains available despite rumors of its demise a few years ago. If Kodacolor 100 performs similarly to Kodak Pro Image 100, Analog Cafe's founder Dimitri says he'd be very happy, as that film is his, quote, current favorite choice for both casual and product photography, end quote. Unique Photo's product listing notes that the film utilizes the standard C41 color negative process and has exposure latitude typical of C41 emulsions, allowing photographers to slightly overexpose to achieve cleaner shadows and smoother tones. Now, compared to Kodak's very popular Ektar 100 film, Kodacolor 100 promises a more natural appearance, which may make it better suited for certain applications where subdued tones are more desired. Kodacolor 100 saturation is described as, quote, restrained. There are a couple of exciting things to consider here as well, not the least of which is that Kodak has announced its first new film in a very, very long time, excluding the company's new Vision 3 film structure launched in August. For new photographic film, Kodacolor 100 is novel, although the resurgence of analog photography has led to some new film stocks hitting the market. Major players like Kodak and Fujifilm have been relatively quiet when it comes to releasing new stocks. It's not yet clear if Kodacolor 100 is an entirely new emulsion or potentially a rebranded version of an existing film. Secondly, the packaging for Kodacolor 100 is fascinating. Unlike Kodak's other films, which predominantly feature Kodak professional branding and falls under the umbrella of Kodak Alaris, the Kodacolor 100 packaging features the classic Eastman Kodak logo and aesthetics. It's much more retro and frankly looks more appealing than Kodak's other film packaging. Peta Pixel has reached out to Kodak for more information on Kodacolor 100, but has not received concrete info to share as of the time of this show. As more details become available, this story can be updated in the future. Although Kodak has not done any press rollout for its new Kodacolor 100 film, nor released extensive details about exactly what this new film is and whether it's a rebranded version of existing film stock or a new film release, it is still exciting news for analog photographers. Kodacolor 100 is available now for $9.49 from Unique Photo in stores, and the retailer says online availability starts this week. Other retailers are expected to have the film soon as well. So again, more exciting news for those of you that are getting into analog film photography. Leica has announced that it has achieved record sales for the fourth consecutive financial year, with the biggest revenue in its history, along with continued profitability. In a press release, Leica says that in 2025, through which it celebrated its 100th anniversary, the company saw nearly across-the-board improvements. Its optics division saw revenue increase by 7.6% from April 2024 to the end of March 2025 to around 596 million euros. The previous year was 554 million, largely driven by the photography segment and growth in smartphones. Its second largest business segment was its sports optics division, binoculars, rangefinders, and spotting scopes. The company adds that its business and home theater projectors, watches, and premium lenses for eyewear also developed substantially in 2025. The company saw revenue growth across all of its regions. In fact, Leica says that its strongest growth region was Europe at 7.6%, mainly due to a surging German growth of 11.4%. Asia and North America also improved, both up 7.3% and 6.2% respectively. Leica also opened new stores around the world, including in China and Wuhan, Japan and Tokyo, and South Korea in Seoul. Its online sales globally increased by 12.5%. Quote, "We are meeting the global growth and demand for cameras with high-quality products made in Germany. Over the past financial year, we have launched both new classic camera models and novel products such as the Leica Lux app and the Leica CinePlay 1 mini projector. Our business success is rooted in innovation and the expansion of our own global sales network," Matthias Harsch, CEO of Leica Camera AG, says. Leica has been on a hot streak, and 2025 is just the latest example. While Leica is diversified, it is still succeeding on the back of its bread and butter, cameras and camera lenses. The fact that sports optics is second shows how much of the company is still based in optics and that sales are strong. Over the past financial year, Leica Camera introduced several new cameras which contributed to the growth in sales. Leica Camera is one of the few companies still producing analog cameras. The Leica Q3 was the biggest seller among the company's digital cameras, Leica says. Quote, "This compact full-frame camera has been available with a 43mm fixed focal length since September 2024. The full-frame system cameras, Leica SL3 and SL3S, were both also in high demand. A small compact camera was added to the range in the form of the Leica Deluxe 8. For the M system, Leica launched the M11D, a variant of the iconic full-frame digital camera that dispenses with a digital display." And of course, that's definitely exciting news anytime we get news like this. And while cameras remain its core focus, Leica intends to expand into other business areas. The company wants to target groups outside of the typical hunting and field observation segments with its sports optics division. For example, its ultra-vid compact color line binoculars are tailored to adventure seekers, city explorers, and nature lovers. It also intends to continue to work with Xiaomi to further its investment in mobile and will also expand its smart projector segment, the company says as well. So definitely a lot of exciting news coming out of Leica, and it's good. I mean, it's great. Like I've said many, many times before, it's always beneficial when the camera companies are doing well. I love to see any and all of them succeeding because that's a win-win for everybody, to be honest. I mean, come on now. And Leica, they've been around a long time. They're one of the premium brands on the market. I don't personally own Leica. I've never had a Leica camera. I would love to own one someday, but whether or not that's ever going to be in the cards, I don't know. Now, I did look at one time about picking up one of the Deluxe 7s until I realized it was APS-C, and it looked like, from what I read about the information on it, was basically just a repackaged Panasonic. So I was like, yeah, no. If I'm going to buy a Leica, I would rather have a genuine Leica, and preferably full frame, instead of Micro Four Thirds or APS-C. But, maybe that's just me. Remember to check out the Liam Photography Podcast Facebook group. It is a private group, and you must answer a security question to join, which is the name of the host of the show, myself, Liam. And I've also opened it up to allow you to give the name of a previous guest on the show to show that you're a listener. Once you are in the group, you are free to post your own original work. Additionally, I am the admin of the Fujifilm GFX 50R group, which is the largest group for the 50R on Facebook. If you own or plan to own the 50R, you can request to join that group. You can find my work at liamphotography.net and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at liamphotoatl. If you like abandoned buildings and history, you can find my project at forgottenpiecesofgeorgia.com. All right, that is going to wrap up episode 474 of the Liam Photography Podcast. I want to thank all of my listeners once again for subscribing, rating, and reviewing us in Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you might be getting your podcasts. If you're not currently a subscriber, why not? It doesn't take anything but a second of your time to smash that subscribe button, so do it now, please. And go ahead and share the show with your friends and family on social media and ask them to give it a listen and to subscribe as well. Now, also be sure to stop by the Liam Photography YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications, check out my latest videos on there. I just released this past Sunday my review of the Fujifilm GFX 100 RF medium format mirrorless compact camera. So you're definitely going to want to check that video out and make sure you get in your entry for my 50,000 plus subscriber giveaway, where you can have a chance to win a brand new Platypod Delta flat tripod. All right, I am out of here. I will see you all again next Thursday.